I don't know whether you've tried to make a call during this Christmas season in those busy jams and freaks and having fun, and whether you're still having problems with that or not. Well, there comes about the issue about service quality issues. Well, on PM Express Business Edition, we zoom into a sector that matters to everybody during this Christmas time and even beyond the season, about how do we ensure that the challenge with service quality is addressed in the telecom sector. How has the fiber cut been a bigger issue for the companies, or their biggest nightmare? Or let's say, could it be just an excuse for inability to provide us with that service that we are looking forward to? Well, welcome to the Boxing Day edition of PM Express Business Edition, and I'm so grateful to engage the Chief Executive of the Telecom Chamber, Dr. Engineer Ken Ashibe. Doc, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, George.
Would you describe this year as a very interesting one, challenging one? As we try to close the year, I know that for you, how would you describe the year being for? Let's start first with the Chamber, then I'll come to you as a person, Doc.
Well, so thank you, George, and let me wish you a Merry Christmas. And we pray that 2024 will be a hopeful, 2025 will be a hopeful year. 2024 has been a very, very interesting year from an industry point of view. All the difficulties that we've experienced as an industry. You mentioned the issues around fiber cut. There's also the issues around taxation. Then there's also the issues around the lack of spectrum within the sector. You know, you also have the challenges with lack of regulatory independence, you know, which tends to affect some of the decisions taken within the industry. And so it's really been a challenging one. This is an industry where government has had a plan to dispose of Airtel Tigo 80, but it's been difficult to do that.
A CD or a dollar?
Well, they bought it for $1, okay, and then they've been trying to get some investors to come in. That has not
Doc,
happened.
I mean, help me out for that lay person on the street. The little finance I know, the little accounting I've practiced, I stand to be educated. How can these whole assets were being sold for $1?
So you also then would have to look at the fact that what you know, and you accountant, so you have assets but you have liabilities.
Yes, of course.
So what is the level of liabilities that had come with the assets as well?
Okay.
So, you know, as government was buying it, was buying it, the assets and the liabilities together. And so that's the only reason the owners would say, okay, we're walking away, we're giving this to you, a symbolic gesture of $1, but you have to bear responsibility for the liabilities as well. And currently, one of the major challenges for this industry has been the liabilities that AT is carrying. And so if you take the tower companies, for example, AT owes them a lot of money, so much money, and all of those monies are not being paid, and it's putting a lot of pressure on these other tower companies. And it's not for nothing that you would find out that in the past year, none of the tower companies did any new sites, put any sites up, and it's really been very depressing. And some of the challenges that you face is that now these are debts that are owed by government to these tower companies, to several other players. But then the same revenues that these tower companies have that are sitting in receivables, the taxman would want to get his VAT on it. The regulator himself, who should be helping these tower companies collect this money from government, will now come in and want to take his regulatory fee of 1%. And so it's really been difficult for the tower companies when it comes to government indebtedness, to these.
We'll be coming back to that and what should be done to deal with it. But again, I asked you about how you describe the year for the industry. Let's come to you as a person as well. How you describe this year?
Well, again, for me,
you'll be putting on two hats and all the rest. And I know for the corporate guys, they'll be worried about the different hats you'll be wearing sometimes. But shoveling between the two and all the rest, as a person, how would you describe 2024?
So for me, another interesting thing that we were able to do was the launch of the EMI Chamber of Ghana. So that was a high. So now you I sit wearing the hat of CEOs for 2 chambers. The EMI chamber, which takes care of all the mobile money companies. So the 5 of them. You have AT Money, you have MTN's Mobile Money Limited, you have Telecom Cash. Then you have GPay, which is from GCB Bank, G-Money. Yeah. And then you have Telecom, you have ZPay as well. So that was done. Then also, the fact that I have been deeply involved in the fight against galamsey. And it's also been, a very difficult and challenging year. The fact that as a country, we keep on poisoning ourselves, we keep on depleting our forests, all the challenges, Erastus's jailing and all of that. But, we had some highs. We got about 8 of the presidential candidates signing a pact. We got beyond the media, you people who've been fighting this, we got others also, coming on board. And for me, again, as a Ghanaian and a very patriotic one as that, the fact that we were able to have a peaceful election was also, for me, another high point of all of that. But this was within an environment where the macro environment was very difficult. The cost of doing business was very high. And so for you as an individual, you also would feel it.
And how difficult has it been for you, even for your corporate guys? You're an advocacy chamber with these 2 institutions, and even the galamsey, which has a political twist to it and all the rest. How challenging has it been for you in managing these 2? Are you your corporate guys who say, "Oh, Uncle Ken, we're an advocacy organization, we should temper, drifting into the political space"? I know.
I think that it's a very interesting balance to do. But the good thing about it is that the members of the chamber realize the fact that when it comes to the issue of galamsey, it's about our very survival. And all the politicians, they have a love-hate relationship with me. They know that I don't do it for any parochial partisan reason. They know I say it as it is. So they might not like some of the things I say, but because they are able to realize the fact that I am not playing an NDC or an MPP game. Because I'm currently, as we speak, the president-elect, he is the one whose feet we are going to hold to the fire. The former president was the one whose feet we held to the fire. And unfortunately, he did not, live up to our expectations of him. He did a great job in 2017 when he decided that he was ready to put his presidency on the line. But as we got to 2020, we knew all the challenges that happened. And so for us as an industry, ESG is also important to us. And if you say you're looking at, environmental sustainability and all of that, then you'll be very hypocritical if your CEO was then advocating to ensure that our very survival. So I believe that the members of the chamber have been very supportive in the particular advocacy for this particular country. And it's had challenges for me as an individual, but I'm not too sure it's affected my role as being able to advocate for them. If anything at all, it lends some credibility to the advocacy we do when it comes to talking about things that concern this industry.
Doc, why is it still a challenge for a lot of people? The service quality issues, the call drops, because it's like a service contract. I've bought my credit, I've bought a phone that is compatible, be it a 4G or a service compatible phone. I want to make calls irrespective of where I find myself. Why is this still a challenge for your members in providing that to me?
Again, you would have to put all of that in perspective. It is important to note that for any operator, the quality of their service is what differentiates them. The quality of their service is what results in calls being completed and revenues coming. So there's a lot of investment that is put into ensuring that service quality is maintained. This is an industry that over the 10 years has invested about $18 billion in the industry. This is an industry that on a constant basis is investing. But there are challenges that the industry deals with. And within those particular challenging environments, you would have to deliver the service. So there are service conditions for which the regulator would come to you. But once those things are happening, you know, so let's look at the challenges that we face. One of the major challenges is not even fiber cut. It's
the almighty fiber cut.
Yeah, but the spectrum.
Interesting.
The unavailability of spectrum. So you have the situations with MTN and then Telecom, they have 4G. They are operating 4G. And they don't have enough spectrum. MTN does not have enough spectrum. And then Telecom also do not have. So because of that, and so you find out that there's a lot of refarming of spectrum severally to ensure that, you know, you're improving on it. But there's a limit to which you can go. So one of the things that we need to do, that the regulator needs to do, is to be able to provide a lot more spectrum. And that's important. It is interesting that, you know, we have this whole SMP going on. So for Telecel and AT, they have been given universal licenses and they are able to refarm their other spectrum to be able to use. But for MTN, they are not able to do that. And even Telecel, they don't have adequate spectrum to be able to provide a service. So a lot of the challenges first is on the back of the unavailability of spectrum. And then you come to the almighty fiber cut. January to November 2024. The number of fiber cuts you have, it's unbelievable. You know, you're having averaging about 20 cuts in a day. And so that also tends to impact on the quality of service. It impacts the quality of you know, the experience that our customers have. So it is within these environments that, you know, you are trying to deliver the services that we have. You know that AT, they still are on 3G. They have a lot of spectrum because, you know, they got their Airtel and then the Tigo spectrum put together, but they are still operating on 3G, though they have a universal license now, and they will be able to do 4G and even, you know, and any other service that they want to do. But so that these are the two challenges that the industry faces: the issue of the lack of spectrum, adequate spectrum, and then the challenges with the fiber cut.
The bit about the spectrum, and educate me a little bit. How has the additional number of subscribers also contributed to this?
Yeah.
Because if I have a limited spectrum, and I know that 1 million subs will let me deliver optimum service, what is stopping that operator from restricting itself to the 1 million subs until that space improves? Are we now placing profitability at the expense of getting that quality service, Doc?
It is the fact that telecommunication service is a human right. So how dare you say that you are part of the 1 million and the rest of them will not have it?
But then there's a service quality issue.
So again, so that is why...
Are we placing profitability over
So
providing quality to the number of Ghanaians out there?
The spectrum belongs to all of us as a country. As citizens, it belongs to us. So it lies in the space of government to ensure that they would give Telecel enough more spectrum, they will give MTN and the other players adequate spectrum to be able to do the service. You remember that during the COVID era, when we had all the challenges, the ministry and the NCA were magnanimous enough to give Telecel and MTN extra spectrum that they used, that helped us. And so this is the same thing that needs to be done. And I think that conversation about providing extra spectrum is important. Because you see, currently I am sitting, so if they decide that you are part of the 1 million or the 2 million or the 20 million, you should get a service and I don't get any service. That's discriminatory. So yes, we need to improve the quality of service that we all can get. We need to fix the spectrum issues. We need to fix the fiber cut issue. But we cannot say that, okay, let's sacrifice Kenneth Ashigbe so that George Wiafe would get good quality service. So what we need to do, and again, is working with the incoming government and the new regulators, is to make sure that we make spectrum available to the various operators at the right prices to ensure that we can improve the quality of service for those of us who are in the already served places and those who are in the unserved and underserved communities.
I get the human right argument, Doc, but then some will say that if you can provide 1 million people with quality service, what is the justification even bringing one person to that group because of the human right argument?
Again,
everybody needs to get access to telecom
again, you
service.
see, it is like saying that if the pipelines that Ghana Water has can serve 1 million people, why should you be extending water into other people when you can't fully serve? So what you have to do is that the limited one that you have to rationalize it. And bear in mind, it is not for the fact that the operators, Telecom, MTN, do not want to pay for additional spectrum.
What is stopping them from getting additional spectrum?
It is the regulator.
The regulator doesn't want to give to you?
Regulator that's not providing, yes.
Why are you not giving them the right price?
Oh, no.
What did you in the communication to you?
Again, you see, it is the whole governance around this whole limited resource of spectrum. It's the whole governance around it. And I believe that it is important for that conversation to really be looked at again, and adequate spectrum provided for the operator. Because you see, again, it is not about the operators. It is about the citizens. It is about the quality of service that we all need. It's about the channels and the connectivity that we require to be able to move us to the next level. So you have the spectrum to deal with the mobile, but even so you're now deploying a lot of fiber, a lot of fixed networks that should be able to improve the level of connectivity for all of us as citizens. And that also, you then run into the whole challenges of how do you maintain the fiber and all of that. The interesting thing, you go into communities like the Emirates and all of that. You find out that the fiber cables are not even buried. They're lying right in the middle of the median. The only reason why nobody will touch it is the fact that everybody realizes the fact that this is how important that is. And they know that once you touch it, there are repercussions for it. So it is important that now that telecommunication infrastructure is considered as critical national information infrastructure, the protection that should be given to it should be the same way that we will protect our water and our electricity. Such that when something happens, when anybody damages the laws, and it's not that for the fact that we don't have the laws are there, that we are actually applying them. So the issue about the numbers is not a profitability issue when it comes to a comparison with the spectrum, but it's more of the fact that as you grow and your population is growing. And it's not only the population that is growing, it is the usage that is growing. In the past, how many of us were doing Zoom calls? In the past, how many of us were watching 4K movies, using our mobile Netflix and all of that? But there's a lot of that. In the past, a lot of the applications that we all used did not eat up a lot of spectrum. So as all of that is going, we need to match it, because let me give you another example. Some people would look at the issues of game and think that it's just luxury. The level of income and revenue that is coming from the gaming area, and people, you go into the Scandinavians and all of that, the amount of monies that the youth are making out of gaming and all of that. But you will struggle when you do that in Ghana because of the challenges with capacity challenges that you have. So we need to find a way in which we would match it. AI is coming. You want to make sure that the issues of your health care, the issues of your agric, now even the media, if you want to tune into, multi-TV, for example, Joy News and all of that, you don't have to be on analog TV or even digital terrestrial. There are various apps that you'll be able to get it, and all of that is requiring a lot more use of capacity. And so we need to push and make sure that there's adequate spectrum in there. There's a lot of protection also for the infrastructure, so that we would be able to ensure that the Ghanaian gets the quality of service.
Doc, with all the latest technology when it comes to infrastructure deployment and everything, is there an alternate for the fiber cables, since it's become a big challenge for the construction, the roadworks and the cuts, and how it's affecting the service quality issues? Are there alternatives for deploying these cables rather than just laying them on the ground, and this challenge and how it's impacting on service quality?
Unfortunately, we rather have to deepen fiber. We have to deepen. Yes, so you would have issues. Mobile is still there. 5G is coming. It will drive the same speeds, better latencies. People will talk about satellites, coming in to complement. But the base that we need to do is to increase the density of our fiber.
And the cuts will go on, and it's become a big challenge.
The cuts do not necessarily have to go on.
In a developing country like that, some will say that it will be a nightmare that you have to deal with always.
No, I see, again, you go into other places, you go into communities like Rwanda and all of that, you don't get that number of cuts. The thing we need to do is to ensure that people, one, appreciate the fact that these, infrastructure is there for my own good. The fact that when I cut the fiber, it impacts on me. The second bit about it is that it's an issue of regulation as well, making sure that the laws are enforced. The next thing is, how do we also improve coordination between ourselves? There are other policies like the Dig One policy, where you make it mandatory that before you want to dig, whether you are a private individual doing any work or you're a road contractor, you are another telecom contractor, you would have to ensure that there's a number to call, there's a permit to get before you can dig. We need to get to that particular point, because the alternates to fiber is fiber. Currently, we need to rather deepen. Yes, we need to deepen. So it is the way we do our work that is the problem. We need to ensure. It is argued that one of the reasons where we are is because of the low level of density of our fixed lines. So that we do a lot more mobile than we do. But for the bandwidth that we require, we need to push a lot more of the fixed. And if you are going to do a lot more of the fixed, definitely copper is old. So it's fiber that you're going to do. And you want to find ways in which you can protect the fiber. You want to find ways in which everybody will now begin to appreciate it. So there are conversations now. That we're not doing only underground fiber, we're doing aerial fiber as well. How do you ensure that you're also protecting that for people who overload their vehicles and then they cut the fiber, or people who also wrongly think that when they see these cables and it's telecommunication, there might be some copper in it and all of that. So I believe that conversations like this that we're having would then help, for people to really appreciate the fact that this is an important resource that we need to protect.
I'll be coming back to look at regulation and also making it very difficult for people to cut these lines as well. This is PM Express Business Edition, and there's the Boxing Day edition of PM Express, engaging the Chief Executive of the Telecom Chamber, Engineer Dr. Ken Ashibi, to look at the service quality challenge and the telecom operators. What is stopping them from ensuring that during this Christmas period, you can make those unlimited calls when you go to those parties, jams, and whatever you can think about during this period. Right back after this break. Welcome back to PM Express Business Edition. As we celebrate, as we have fun in our homes, there's one issue that I know most people don't want to compromise on when you pick up your mobile phone to make a call during this period. And how do you ensure that you can reach that other person? At the end, they're sending that Christmas message, and even the 31st, that message out there, and how sometimes you struggle. And someone said, oh, I sent the message on the 29th, you got it on the 2nd of January. I'll be getting back to Doc to help me out with that. How also network congestion issues and all the rest. This is PM Express as we look at the service quality challenge and the telecom firms. How has the fiber cut been a major nightmare for them in providing those quality service to you? Doc, thank you so much. And again, help me out, the 101s here.
Yes.
I know you're an engineer, so
yes.
This is a space, it's a playground for you. Is it just a congestion issues? Is it just that, for instance, the telecom firms can target certain areas where there are a lot of people there and provide additional must? There have been instances where I sent somebody a message during this period. Master, but your message came in too late. Is it a mobile usage challenge? Is it a service area challenge? Or the fact that there is so much pressure on the network in a particular area, maybe East Legon, and therefore that is what brings about some of these challenges.
So again, one of the things that which you find is that that the previous elections, in the 2020 elections, there was a challenge about connectivity and all of that. We didn't experience it this year.
Okay.
So there was a deliberate policy towards ensuring that you were optimizing the networks, for that particular time. And we also need to give thanks to the Minister for Roads and Highways. He also ensured that there was a moratorium for all excavation to stop a week before the elections and a week after the election. So I think there were just a couple of challenges that we had with fiber cuts around the time because of the moratorium that happened, and also because of the awareness that he created. He asked all the contractors to watch that. Then also you have the issues around vandalism that happens at the sites, because somebody goes to these sites, goes to siphon fuel, goes to cut copper, goes to take batteries, the site goes down. What is then going to happen is that once you take that site down, that's what then it means that people around the community would struggle. Or if there's a fiber cut going to the particular site, then you might have to use some alternate. Maybe you put some radio that is in, but the bandwidth would then be limited. That would result in all the congestions. But another thing, and thank God for new technologies, the use of AI and all of the modern technologies, it's helping the operators to also be able to predict the loads, be able to optimize. So there's a lot of that work also going on. But another challenge you face is the wrong conceptions that people have of a tower being in a community and people pushing back. Again, that we also need to thank the Ministry for Communication Digitalization and the NCA. There's been a revision of the tower guidelines, which is then resulting in the change of the setback rules, how far back you ought to be from a tower and all of that, considering, the medical, everything, the engineering of it, making sure it's structurally sound. If we implement all of that, that would help. But I've told you already that because of the difficulty that the industry have had, there was situations, so you might be talking like an East Legon, where maybe, and you, because of the load levels that have happened, you want to put a new tower in there. But the challenge has been the investments. The investments have not come because most of these tower companies have debts that are sitting there owed by the government that are not being paid, and the result of it is that you're not getting new investment.
But Doc, let's hold this debt as a constant. Let's put it somewhere. Doc, I come back to the question about investment because I struggle to get that. Some are saying that I pay what I have to pay when I purchase any service or product from your end of your members. It's a contract. And even if your members are not making super abnormal profit, they might be breaking even. That qualifies them to plow back some of these monies, invest so much so that I get the barest minimum of service quality and all those things, Doc.
So I think the point has to be made that Ghana, we get more than the barest minimum in terms of quality.
Some consumers or subscribers will disagree.
I would say at some points, you have challenges. And again, I'm saying that you need to situate all of that in terms of the issues of the spectrum availability. And then we've mentioned fiber cut. We've also mentioned the issues about the sites and all of that. But the issue about investments, I mentioned earlier before we started that we are in a country where government has been out there in the market looking for investors to come and purchase 80 of them. It's not happened. The reason it's not happened is that the margins that you have as a country, so far as the industry is concerned, is so depressed. For every 1 cedi that you and I spent in the telecom industry, 42.3 pesos goes back to government in the form of taxes. So the level of taxation is one of the challenges that you face. You are also in a country where the cost of power, so far as the telecom industry is concerned, is extremely high. Because of the nature of our loads, the tariff bracket that we fall in is the prohibitive commercial bracket that we fall in. And there's a paper that we've made to the PRC about that, and we're definitely hoping that we will get to the point where that is going to be considered. And so all of that goes to impact upon the operations of the industry. And so it is important that as we have these conversations about the issues of investment, we put that in perspective. But in terms of investment, I've told you the amount of capex that have been invested over the quarter. It is so much. So it is not for lack of investment that some of the challenges that we quality service that we get. It's not for lack of investment. But again, you also need to put it in perspective. It's not all the operators that are breaking even. Some of them are not breaking even at all. You know, some of them, yes, will be making some profits, but it's really a depressed environment. Do you think it's for lack of nothing that the Ghanaians, the BWAs who were given licenses, have not been able to survive?
Why?
It is just because doing telecom business in Ghana is not been profitable. It's been very heavy.
For some, because everyone is using, unless it's not being priced right.
It is not being, and again, so if you look at our pricing, and the NTA has done a report that shows you that our price, the rate at which we are pricing in Ghana is very low because of all the taxations issues. So and again, it will be good to look at that. There are various research that have been done by independent people, and the GSMA one in terms of pricing is one of the things that you see. The Ghana's tariff, I think we're the second in Africa when it comes in terms of the affordability index. Ghana is second, and it's the reason. So when you have that affordability, the things that drive a lot of affordability up is the issues of taxation and the issues of depreciation. Again, this is an industry that majority, all of your capex is imported, you know, so, and then you import, so the forex plays a role. Then you also have the challenge with the import duties that you pay. You remember when we did our total tax report, the over 800 and something million that we pay as import duties. All of those issues have to be looked at because you need to create that physical space for the operators to be able to plow back. It's the reason why a lot of these BWAs, you know, have all folded up. And again, even for us as the MNOs themselves, when I joined the chamber in 2017, there were about 5 of them. Now, how many you have? You have 3. You know, this is an industry where 2 MNOs who are in the same strategic group, Airtel and Tigo, competing, had to come together. Why did they come together? They came so that they can optimize their cost and then possibly try to improve their EBITDA. And it's really not happened. So it is a very difficult industry to operate in, but it's also a very critical industry. If all the other facets of the economy are going to progress, we need to make sure that we make the telecom industry attractive and ensure that a lot more investment will come into that we can improve the quality of service, we can improve the connectivity that we have, so that all other industries, agri health and all of that, can ride on the back of that, so that Ghana, we can grow and jump from you know, the lower middle income that we talk about to a first world economy.
Let me quickly come back to still the fiber cut issue in terms of the legal framework. What steps have been taken? I know that you've done some work with the Chief Justice or the judiciary in trying to make it more punitive as well. But before I quickly come to that as well, I know that for a little bit technical here, I know that for the undersea cables, there's some robust cabling is done, if I can use that expression.
Yes.
That makes it difficult for it to.
Yeah.
Can the same be applied to your fiber cables that makes it a little bit more difficult for it easily to be cut by even somebody who is just farming and think that, oh, I've seen copper, so I just want to cut it. Okay. What about that level? Or again, the cost issue is a problem.
Again, so
but let's weigh the cost of cutting that fiber, i.e. the cost of having the latest rubber lane and everything that can protect those fiber cables.
You need to balance. It's not just a cost issue; it's the ease of deployment and you know, and all of that. So what you tend to do with your fiber is that, yes, beyond the fiber itself, the optic fiber that is in the middle, you sheath it and all of that. Then you also put them in subducts. The subducts are in a bigger duct. And then what you then will do also is that the soil that you put, different kind of soil in there, you put your warning tapes on it, you put markers on it, so that once I start excavating and I start seeing that the soil color changes, then for me who is excavating, it tells me that there's something underneath that. It could be an electric cable, it could be water, it could be fiber. Then as I continue excavating, I will see the warning tape. You know, so the warning tape will tell me fiber in there. And so that if I'm diligent enough, then it tells me. Unfortunately, sometimes when you get some of these people sitting on the excavators, they go in there, they don't, and because of the fact that when it comes to fiber, it would not shock you because the voltage are extra low, there's no water in it that would spill over and destroy. They then do it with reckless abandon, and also because they know that there are no repercussions in there. So it will be difficult for you to want to really see thief that heavy, because it would make installations very difficult. Bear in mind that when it comes to the undersea cables, most of the time you're laying almost in a straight line. You would tee off at a particular point and all of that. And so, and also for them, the vagaries that they are exposed to are more severe. An anchor, goes down, a ship, and all of that. So the protection that you will do for your fiber, undersea fiber, will not be the same that you do, but there's some level of protection, that also comes to it.
Let's quickly come back to the legal regime
Yes.
and what is being done
Yes.
from the legal argument or the judiciary bit to make it more difficult for people who deliberately do these things.
Okay, so one of the things that has happened is that the latest legislation in that space is the Cybersecurity Authority Act 2020, Act 1038. Because of the classifications of telecommunication as critical information infrastructure, it provides some protection. And another thing that the outgoing government has done, the Ministry of Communication Digitalization, working with the Cyber Security Authority, is there's an airline that has gone into Parliament that is going to operationalize this. That would help. But we all know that if you just bring the laws when it comes to the enforcement, the NCA that have been supporting us, the CSA that have been supporting us, they can't do the enforcement. So there has to be engagement with the law enforcement. So we met with the IGP, and the IGP is working with us to ensure that there is going to be better enforcement. In the coming days, in the next year, we're going to do some training for the police, prosecutors, and the investigators. We have had a meeting with the Chief Justice. There was a court dedicated to copper. And then the former Chief Justice expanded its mandate to also take into consideration the issues of fiber and other telecommunication
So there's a
infrastructure.
special court.
There's a special court that was done in Accra. Now the current Chief Justice has added another one to it in Kumasi to handle the North. So it is important for all of us to realize that now the laws that are in place will be implemented. And the interesting thing is that we did some training for the judges. So there was a judge sitting in Cape Coast, where there was a gentleman, Kojo Opong, who went to a Winneba site to go
Not the Kojo Opong.
Not the Kojo Opong Kroma that you know.
Okay,
no, this is Kojo Opong. He is currently serving 16 years in jail because he got himself involved in vandalism of telecommunication infrastructure. So now you're getting some of the judges also to become aware that when you get somebody who's just going to cut something that looks like a plastic cable, the impact on you as the judge, even your court, the work that you're doing as the court, it's so now the judges are beginning to take action. We also engage the Minister for Roads, who's also added his voice to it. In the coming year, we need to do an engagement between ourselves and the regulators, the CSA, the NCA, and the law enforcement agencies. We also met with the Attorney General. Our ask with the Attorney General is for him to grant us a fiat so that our lawyers would then prosecute the cases like Smith does on behalf of the Attorney General. That might take a while in happening. So what the Attorney General, when we met his deputy, agreed to do for us is then to dedicate some of the state attorneys who then can be provided some training. So when these cases come, and now we have 2 specialized courts, they would handle it for us, and it would help us get the necessary prosecution and convictions. That then will become a deterrent for others who would want to do this and cause you and I the quality of service issues that we're discussing today.
There's something I've heard about the national roaming, where when if I'm maybe on Telecom and I move to maybe Bunguruguyoyo, I can easily switch to. How committed are your members to this national roaming thing that it makes it easier in dealing with this service quality issue, that I can move to the remotest part in the central region and I can still have access to making that human right call, as you made it to understand.
No, I think the national roaming is working. It's working.
All your members, on board,
everybody's on board. You know, the commercials have been agreed amongst the members. The issues with roaming was not even a technology thing. It was just the commercials around it. Because if you come and you're roaming on my facility, how much am I charging you for that? You know, you needed to make it in such a way that it was equitable and was fair to those who are investing and to also the customers. And so that's something that is happening, that is improving. To the extent that because of that, you're finding out that things like mobile number portability is not happening because the person knows that when they go into some communities, and it's improving. It's improving service availability into places that ordinarily, because maybe only one network is there, people were not getting service. That's happening. And so I think all that it would take is just a deepening in of that. And as an industry, we are committed to that because we believe that it's one of the ways to go.
Doc, cost of data is another challenge that has always come up. Why is this still expensive, even among some of the operators, and it's not a blanket thing as
well, I think generally, when I speak for the industry in general, you would find out that if you're comparing, again, we say cost of data is expensive. Compared to what? You know, the interesting thing is
compared to what I was just paying, that just about, and I'll bring in the S&P, but we'll move to that just maybe like 6 months ago, or even just maybe a year ago.
Yeah, but again,
I was using just maybe 10 cities to get X amount of data. Yes. The same 10 cities now within the same year, when I want to hold all other inputs variables constant, it's now I can get
again. So if you look at the cost per GB, it has increased, but not increased that much. One of the things that have increased for all of us is our usage.
Interesting.
Yes, it's our usage. And again, that's why I say that it's always good when you're doing this to do a comparator. The NCA did a report itself where they did a comparison of the cost of data, not only amongst ourselves,
across the region,
but across the region.
And Ghana was less expensive.
Ghana was less. Then the GSMA also have the affordability report. Ghana is number 2. When it comes to the issues of affordability. Some of the challenges that you face when it comes to our data is the fact that our, telecommunication, the taxes that are imposed on it, not only, so for if you bought data, you should know that you would have your CST that is charged on it. You would have the 2 levies, the National Health Insurance Levy, and then the other one, then you have the COVID levy that will be applied. And after all of that is done, then you would have a 15% VAT that is slapped on it. So the effective tax rate on every 1 CD data you buy, it's 24%. So the cost of data, a large chunk of it goes to government in the form of tax. And this is just a straight one. You're not talking about the fact that, there's a 1% that of the revenues that the operators pay that is paid to the NCA as regulatory fees. You're not talking about the 1% that the operators and all the other licensee of the NCA that is paid to GIFEC. You're not talking of the fact that for the right of way, for laying fiber and all of that, for highways, for every kilometer, you have to pay some money to the highways, to the urban roads, to the assemblies. So the cost of doing telecommunication business is so much, because what is going to happen in all of these things that you do is that for anybody who is in operation, and you and I went, for me, it was when I was in class 3 that we learned the issue about selling price being what? Cost price plus profit. So if your cost price is very high, what would happen is that your selling price will be high. And I told you about the issues about power. The cost of power is so much that the tower companies pay so much for just your power. And you know that PRC now also on a quarterly basis adjusts the cost of their power. Then in places where you don't have the grid in there, you would have to then complement or supplement that with diesel. And now what we are also doing as an industry is moving to solar so that we can then reduce the cost of the power. But also on that, when you bring the panels come duty free. But the other ancillary things that go with it, your batteries, your inverters, there are duties on it. So once government sees this as as the UN calls it, as a human right, and now also as a utility. It's important that we work together with the industry to look at the input cost that comes from the government side. And so that when some of these exemptions and the reprieves are given to, if it's power, for example, it will go to the tower companies. We need to ensure that the tower companies will pass it on to the operators, so that the operators can also pass it on to us.
Doc, you mentioned one critical issue about taxes, and I'll be zooming in the taxes and even the proposals, review some of them, and what is the situation. This is PM Express Business Edition as you look at the development in telecom space when it comes to service quality issues and the telecom operators. Is the Boxing Day edition of PM Express. Right back after this break. Welcome back to PM Express Business Edition. As you talk about that big debate in the telecom space, the quality of service that the operators are offering to you, especially during this period where a lot of you be making a lot of calls, sending that message to your loved ones, and ensuring that it gets to them really on time. Engaging the Chief Executive of the Telecoms Chamber, Engineer Dr. Ken Ashibe. Doc, we spoke about taxes and how that is impacting on cost. And help me out again appreciate this thing, which has become the biggest issue during this period, the bit about the tax on mobile money. And now we've had the incoming administration promising that they're going to take that tax off. Everybody's excited. There's been this big argument about whether really it did affect usage of that product on your platforms.
Yeah.
What was the engagement like before until the tax came in? And whether indeed the panacea and allowing more activity in that space where people transfer is the removal of this tax?
So thank you, George. Again, so e-levy is a classic way of not to bring about any policy. The interesting thing is that before e-levy came, on a constant basis, this is something that we used to engage and discuss. And so for when they actually wanted to promulgate this particular law, what they did was to, because they knew we've been discussing it, they did not engage at all. So there was no engagement at all. And I can tell you for free that there was no basis for that 6-point-something billion that was projected that they were going to get. And again, so now history has proven that that has not happened. And so there was a study that we did with the GSMA, and it showed very clearly that there was a gap, when the tax was not present and when the tax was present. And so the volumes and the values went down. And again,
did the introduction of the tax then
drop? It depressed. And
there are empirical evidence.
There's empirical evidence to show that. So there's empirical evidence to show that there were drops that happened, along the way. And then you also then wanted to look at the rate of growth. If you look at the rate of growth, even today, even after the reduction in the rate, we still have not recovered that
levy.
The rate at which was accelerating, the growth was accelerating. And the interesting thing again is that the Vice President commissioned research that was done by the GRA and ourselves, and that's when we had come up with a 0.5. As with the GRA and all of that as the rate, but then government looked at it and then rather decided to do 1%. Even with the 1%, you could see a recovery that had come. So that tells you that based on the level of the taxation, it directly impacts on the usage. And there were other things. It was not just the rate that was not properly thought of. Even as an industry, the way the charges are done, they are capped. So for every operator beyond a particular level, first was 10 cedis. They won't go beyond 10 cedis. And when the e-levy was introduced, industry decided to reduce our level to 7.5. And so it is really important that we look at this industry and look at the fact that we are still not where we ought to be yet. And so when we engage the the president-elect before the elections. He gave his commitment that that was going to be scrapped. And the interesting thing is that even the vice president who lost also gave his commitment. So it is important that that tax is taken off to enable the industry to grow to the level that it ought to grow to. But the thing about it is also there are various other things that we can do within the sector. And so for us as an industry, we're prepared to sit together with the coming government, the Ministry of Finance, the GRA, to really think how are we able, because the economy is being digitized. There's a lot of commerce now going on the digital platform.
Areas.
Exactly. How do we ensure that everybody pay their fair share of the taxes? How do we also ensure that we can spread the tax net such that the level that you and I as corporates, those working in the corporate area we pay in terms of our PAYE, those in the what I would call the real sector of the economy, everybody is paying their fair share. If we do that with all the data that is available, still taking our data privacy laws into consideration, we should be able to ensure that people are paying their adequate taxes. Today, people come in at the ports, they would import container loads. When it comes, it doesn't go to any shop. You go to a house, then they are sitting on social media, they are doing their businesses, people pay. So these are the ways that we believe that working together with government, we would be able to find ways of expanding the tax net, making sure that everybody is paying their fair and equitable share so far as taxation is concerned.
Though, can we make an intelligent argument, based on empirical evidence, research, and facts that if this e-levy is removed on mobile money transactions, we're going to see a strong rebound, more people using the service?
Definitely. And again, it's beyond even what you would see in Ghana. And again, the good thing for us in Ghana is that you can go back and look at the data. Let me give you an example that is in the industry. When CST was reduced from 9% to 5%, we saw that the level of taxes grew up, because of the fact that a lot more people now are being compliant. If you take the e-levy off, what is going to happen is that you are going to get a lot of people begin to use the service. And then you would also there are other things that you need to do. Find ways of encouraging merchant payments to happen. And so that when the merchant payments happen, when people who are within the real sector, your mason, your electrician, all of those people who currently are not paying any taxes on the incomes they are earning, you then move them into this bracket, work in such a way that you're able to identify those payments. And then, so after they have made their profits, you don't front load it, but after they have made their profit, then they all would then pay taxes based on the profit. You will find that you'll be able to collect more. You'll be able to get a lot more people coming into the tax net. Compliance would improve more than we've had.
I mean, Uncle Ken, I get from you that the sector is being overtaxed, and that's a fact. How do we put this argument in the space about the normal incidence of taxation and all the rest, and the principles and the morale behind taxes? If I earn more,
yes,
I should be paying
yes,
more.
Yes.
Again, from the eye of a layman and all the rest, if I look at the numbers of some of the telcos, and I use the word some, they are making good profits. If you are making good profits, what is stopping the government or the taxman to come after firms that are fair? The more that you earn, the more you pay. So I struggle sometimes to understand when the telecom operators are complaining about we are being overtaxed, the taxes is making our products expensive and all the rest, because you are making it more. Especially, for instance, when people complain about when they are being shut down for, not telecom operators, but other businesses, the bit about VAT. You've collected the monies on behalf of the state. And you are saying that I'm not making profit, but this is a tax that you collect on behalf of the state.
Yes.
So just pay back to the state.
No,
so I'm just saying that if we use that principle of taxation to work in here,
yes,
why are the operators complaining that they are
no? So again, our complaint is not about the fact that we're paying CIT, corporate income taxes. Our complaint is not about the fact that the stabilization levy, although that should have set, has not set. When you put the tax on profit, and you remember that this government, when they came, they were going to move from taxation to production. if you move the taxes and you put it on profit, that is the way to go. So that if I make a lot more profit, I pay a lot more. But when you have the situation where you and I, you, George, earning more than I do, if all of us go to go and buy data, all of us, I would have to pay the same amount of tax that you also pay. Then that does not become equitable. That kind of taxation is not fair. And that is not something that should be encouraged. That is the reason why we're saying that every tax should be progressive, so that the person who pays more who earns more should pay more. You also want to do it in such a way that you don't front load the taxes in such a way that the person then, before he starts even making profit, then you are collecting the money from the person. You don't also do it in such a way that you take all, because again, it is industries that are supposed to be taxed more are the same industries. But when you have the situation so that those who are selling, alcohol, those who are selling cigarettes, those are the people that you are expecting that should be paying a lot more so far as taxation is concerned. But not a product that you say is a utility, so that for my grandmother who is in Shame, for example, both of her, when I send 10 CDs, she sends 10 CDs. We're all paying the same, amount of tax. That cannot be, a progressive tax. That cannot be equitable. And so that's what we're saying that. And then again, when you have situations where you have industry-specific taxation, that is also not something that you should be encouraging. Because now, if you brought $1 million that you wanted to invest in any industry and you went into, say, real estate, you put that your 1 million into real estate, and then somebody put it into telecommunication. Telecommunication, his customers would have to be paying, They would have to be paying CST, whilst the other one who moves on to the other side, they don't pay that. So that's definitely, those are the things that we're talking about. So for us as an industry, we're not talking about the fact that we should not pay taxes. We believe that we should pay taxes, and we believe that we should pay our fair share. But we need to make sure that it is equitable. How does it happen that within the technology space, that now a lot of the monies go to most of these big four, the OTT companies? You take your Googles, you take your Facebook, you take your Metas and all of that. They don't, how much taxes do they pay to government? So they also need to contribute. They also need to be contributing. And so that's all that we're talking about. It's about the equitable and the fair share of the industry so far as taxes are concerned. Let me give you a typical example. If you look at our contribution to GDP, our level of contribution to GDP, it's lower than our level of contribution to GRA's taxes. So that difference, for example, tells you that why is it that when it comes to GDP, this is only our contribution, but when it comes to taxes, we are paying more than, almost double. Our contribution is almost double when it comes to taxation. All of these are inequities that have to be corrected.
I know the contributions that your investment team members have made in this space, and since you also wear the different hat of these mobile money operators and all the rest, are your members doing enough to minimize the fraud? And there are times I forget myself. They will call you, George, you are a member of this group. We are trying to update it. You want your number. I know someone that, I know you know that person personally, but maybe she's not told you that. As of now, she's not using mobile money because the fraud exposure. And it has gone up in recent times. And this is not just in Ghana. I've stayed outside and I've had this challenge also before. But can we up the game a little bit?
No, so again, so far when the issues around fraud is concerned, now you notice that the fraud has moved from just mobile money fraud into other forms of fraud. People are hacking people's WhatsApp account, Facebook account, and based on that, they're using that, to call people and defraud people. And so, in as much as an industry, we've worked on the technology side and making it robust that people cannot hack your mobile money itself. The issue of the social engineering is being the problem. And so you find out that most of this fraud, the victims themselves are party to, the money is leaving because somebody will call you, have some conversations with you. And so we are upping the ante when it comes to the issues around the education. We're upping the ante in terms of collaboration amongst ourselves. About what we've done with the fraud control dashboard site, that when fraud happens, we block the number, we get the rest of them. What we are planning to do next year is for the telecom industry, the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunication, the EMI Chamber of Ghana, working together with the Ghana Association of Banks, with the regulator, the Bank of Ghana, maybe with the Cyber Security Authority, the cybercrime, and then come together and make it a lot more difficult for these fraudsters. And then, but we have to continue the education. So you will see that in the year coming, we are going to, though we've been doing it, we're going to up the ante. Unfortunately, we tend to, as a country, we tend to be very accepting. And so sometimes these fraudsters, and they also, like Chenua Achebe would say, when the hunter learns to shoot without missing, the bird also learns to fly without perching. So on a constant basis, they are coming up with new ways. There was a notice from Apple that was even telling that there was in some markets where the fraudsters now, they will tell you that they are updating your Apple ID, and they follow it up with calls and all of that. And now with AI, people are trying to use that to mimic. And so there is a lot of education that we have to do as we go digital. And then we also would urge all of us, we've talked about the issue of double authentication. So for all our viewers, if you have WhatsApp, you have Facebook, you have any of the social media platform, make sure you activate your double authentication so that when the person attempts to even hack your system, because of the double authentication, you would be able to deal with it. And then we also talk about the fact that if anybody sends you any code, he should not be asking you to send the code back to the person. And now beyond the issue of code, another thing they're doing is that they will send you a link and they will ask you, to press the link. Please, if you don't know the person, do not, if any link is sent you, just delete it. If you want, call the operator back, call the service provider back, and make sure that you validate that. It is important to cross-check when any of these things come. So we all need to be on the lookout and ensure that we are not defrauded. But we as an industry, it is something that we're taking very seriously.
Do I get from you that you are blocking some of these numbers that are identified as defrauded?
Completely.
People
so not only
out of the system, or what?
Yes. So what happens?
What punitive actions are you taking against some of these numbers that are clearly identified that they are in this business?
So once a fraud happens and you report it to any of the networks, they would investigate it. Once they attest that the fraud has actually happened, what then they will do is that they would block that number. When they block the number, they will block the device. IMEI, all devices have IMEI numbers. So they will block that device, so that device can no more be used on their network. Then they will report it also onto the fraud control dashboard. So if it happened on, say, 80 will do all of that. They will report it. Then MTN and Telecom would also block it. And so this is what we're pushing to do, and doing it in such a way that we bring the banks in. So we get to the point where when you commit the fraud on even a bank's network, on mobile money, you can be blocked. And then if we can do that in such a way that and what also happens is that now for every SIM card, we know the Ghana card that is behind it. So it will get to the point, if you do 3, the SIM card would, the Ghana card would also be blacklisted. So that Ghana card can no longer be used to register any mobile money or SIM card on the networks. And so if we can collaborate with the banks, then what then will happen is that then you cannot also use that Ghana card to also go and open a bank account. And then possibly other regulators can come in. You cannot even get voter lines, voter ID, and all of that. Then we start shrinking the space for
I don't know whether this is an operator thing, because in US I use a T-Mobile. And I know when a certain number comes, the network identifies and tells me that this is a fraud number. I stand to educate whether these are some of the decisions that they've taken. That now the number comes in and they are warning you that this number is a fraud number that is trying to defraud you. So don't pick it up.
We go a step further. The number will not even be able to call you anymore.
Okay.
So what we will do is that the number will be blocked. So if it is, say, an MTN, a Telecel, or an 80 number, that number will be blocked. So he cannot even make the call anymore.
Doc, as we try and wrap up this discussion, what is the relationship between the chamber, the regulator here, NCA, and Communications Ministry?
Well, I think that we've worked with the regulator, we've worked with the ministry, we've done a lot of things together, but I think we can do better. We can do better. It is important for the incoming government to work on so that we can have a lot more collaborative regulation. Let me give you a typical example. If you go into the mobile financial services, for example, the relationship between the regulator, the Bank of Ghana, and us, the industry, is a lot more tighter. For every policy, for every law, for every directive, there's a lot more engagement. So the reason why you've seen the progress in the mobile financial services is because of the collaborative regulation that you see from the Bank of Ghana. You don't see a lot of that, though. Yeah, it happens with the NCA and the ministry, but I think we can deepen a lot more of that on that side. Because you see, and you take entities like the Cybersecurity Authority, they also do a lot more of the collaborative regulation. Fortunately for us, the current NCA strategy that they've adopted, collaborative regulation, is one of the key things. Unfortunately, we've just done about a year of it, and we're even beginning to see fruits of it. That's some of the things that we've done working together with them, but we need to do a lot more of that. You see, because when it comes to the issues of the engineering and technology, it does not matter whether you are an operator, whether you are a regulator. The gray matter is the same. So it is the best ideas that should percolate to the top. We need to do regulation now that we should even include the user as well. So for the new government that is coming, apart from the issues of independence of the regulator, an issue of collaborative regulation is really good.
And that's what I'll be coming to, because in just about 12 days from now or 13 days from now, we saw in the new president. What is your charge to the incoming administration and the incoming president, who is seen as a communication person himself? What are your expectations? What is the charge to this new government that will take over January 7th?
So George, so we had a meeting with the incoming president, and so we shared the telecommunication manifesto issues with him. And in that engagement that we had in here, he was very receptive to the issues that we raised. So the thing to say to him now that he is now president-elect is to walk the talk so far as these issues are concerned. He says he was going to be engaging of the industry. So it is important that the president himself, his Minister for Communication, the NCA, the various regulators are a lot more engaging. How do we work together in make sure that the regulators are independent of the policymakers, make sure that we have progressive policies, legislation that would inure to the benefit of the subscriber, that would attract a lot more investment in how do we ensure that the issues around spectrum, the issues around taxation, the issues around some policies are very friendly. How do we ensure that we can work together with them to drop the taxation on the industry so that it inures to the reduction in data cost? These are the things that we need to do. But the most important thing is for them to be open for us, the same way we had conversations with him when he was, president-elect. Before he became president, candidate Muhammad. We need the same thing. And we believe, because he himself has been in the ministry before, at the very top, we believe that we're going to get that collaboration working together with him so that they can take off. And again, it's important that if you take the mobile financial services, the progress that have been made, we are able to continue with that and then grow that further out. I believe that working together with government and industry, with the ministry, we should be able to help drive government's agenda. This whole issue about 5G, we need to really look at it in such a way that, 5G would inure to the benefit of the subscriber in Ghana, get all the players to be involved in it. Don't introduce it as an additional layer, an additional margin that is going to be there. How do we all get to use it so that we can learn from our 4G experience, but also learn from what has happened when it comes to this wholesale licensing in other jurisdictions, so that the Ghana one can be done in such a way that it will.
You spoke about 5G. Is it nationwide as we speak now? It's still the thoughts to roll out?
I'm not too sure, because you see, the 5G, those who are providing it, they are not members of the chamber. So I've not been engaging too much with them, but I don't know whether are you getting the 5G on?
Not yet.
So I'm sure it will happen.
Doc, in 30 seconds, outlook for 2025.
I'm hopeful. I think the word for me is hopeful that working together with the president-elect and the team that is going to come together, we would be able to build on the gains of the past, be able to correct some of the things that have not worked well, and so that we can catapult Ghana into, the fifth industrial revolution, and make sure that we can empower the young people to create wealth, for ourselves, and then be able to improve our situation.
Doc, Engineer Dr. Kenashbe, I appreciate your time. And I know we'll be coming back to you again for more in this industry.
Definitely.
And always have an open door policy.
Completely.
To take you on the issues that matter in the industry. This has been PM Express Business Edition, engaging the Chief Executive of the Telecom Chamber, Engineer Dr. Kenashbe, to talk about those issues that matter to you during this Christmas festivity in terms of making that call and also the cost of data during this time. My name is George Wiafe. Have a great day and let the debate continue about how we can better improve this industry. Have a great day.